The Urak Lawai Sea tribe of Lanta Island took part in a solemn ceremony to pay tribute to the god of the sea in seeking permission for them to perform the traditional boat floating rite. Although severely affected by the tsunami disaster, these sea tribe people would not ignore this significant rite. Being attached to the sea for all their lives, the sea tribe believe in sacred spirits of the sea that give them protection and prosperity. They aim to drive away all sufferings and ill fates with the floating of the specially built boat, so that peace and happiness return to the community again. Rituals, beliefs, cultures and local traditions of traditional communities along the Andaman coast serve as important foundations for the security and strength of the communities, both the Sea Gypsies and Muslim communities. The Muslims on Lanta Island revived their ancient tradition of ceremonial welcoming a newborn in a village. The struggle for survival in a capitalist economic system and the growth in tourism are threatening diverse cultures with extinction in the near future. Yet the people's pride in their own culture and roots is essential for the survival of the communities. The project on cultural heritage promotion and revival thus took shape all along the Andaman coast to make these traditional communities realize the urgent need to conserve local culture.
Cultures are social's fundamentals that roots deep down in every community. Modern development suppresses them, and soon they gradually disappear. However, in reality, it is a condition that links spirits of people in the community. It links feelings of people in the community, making them gather to do activities that develop their community. It is, therefore, very crucial that it needs to be rebuilt.
This artist carefully used brewed coffee to paint a Moglin maid's face on an earthen wall of the cultural centre of the Sea Gypsies at Ban Tung Wa. It was the wish of community members to have a centre of their own for the collection of the Sea tribe's history and culture, so that their children and grandchildren can learn the stories and the way of life of their ancestors. Around 10 NGOs rendered their support to residents of Ban Tung Wa in this effort. Rituals, beliefs, history, and a way of life of the Sea Gypsies were depicted in fine paintings. Everyone was looking keenly forward to the day when the centre could be presented to public eyes. Meanwhile, the kind characters of residents of Sai Dam Island led to the revival of the culture of peaceful coexistence and generosity. The Muslim community of Sai Dam Island also jointly revived a folk musical performance known as Kap Yong, which was once forgotten and taught it to young children, as they were the ones to perpetuate local culture in the future. They also jointly built a community museum as a depository of records on history, culture and lifestyle of their ancestors for more than the past 2 centuries, so that the younger generations could learn of and take pride in their own culture. The same can be said about the Muslims on Mook Island. Recognizing the importance of community cultural heritage, they joined forces to revive the folk performance of Rongneng, to be passed on to the next generations, and to preserve their work for posterity. Residents of Mook Island recorded their Rongneng performance on CD. A community is not just made up of houses and residents, but include the way of life, culture, tradition, the environment and nature of that community. That was the reason why a working group from the Social Research Institute of Chulalongkorn University, UNESCO, and the Morkin of Surin Island made a joint survey around the community to map out the nature and culture study route for the young generations and tourists to learn of plant breeds that were related to the way of life of the Morkins. Young Morkin men studied their ancestors' boat-building technique from elders in the village, so that they could pass on the traditional way of life to the next generation. All the stories of the Morkin community of Surin Island were compiled and published for tourists as a tool to conserve community identities. In the process of reviving and conserving local culture, children always occupy the prominent place as the main force in inheriting the traits. At the community school of Ban Got Adang, a small island in the Andaman to the south of Thailand, the Urak Lawoi community of Lipet Island brought historical accounts, language, art and culture, and the way of their life to be included in the curriculum on local culture, so that their children know and take pride in their own identities as the Urak Lawoi, inherited through generations for almost a century. Representatives of several NGOs also came to their help by drawing up GIS maps of Adang Island's area in accordance with accounts given by elders in the Sea Tribe community, presented in the language of the Urak Lawoi. Thus, local wisdom was linked to technological advances for the systematic management of community data and the affirmation of the community status as the original community of the Urak Lawoi of Adang Islands.
Sea gypsies, no matter if they are the Moken or Urak Lawoi, they have been in the area for a long time. They just do not stay still in the same place as agricultural societies like us. They travel to places as the Urak Lawoi in Lipe. Their way of living, called bakat, is when they stay in one place to fish for 3 or 5 days, then move on. Therefore, regarding the areas, whether forests, headlands, or islands, they have names for all those places because they feel the bond. There are histories behind those places for them.
The process of searching for local culture through traditions, rituals, music and local artists that remained after the tsunami disaster was seen simultaneously in many places along the Andaman coast. They hoped that at least they could play some part in helping the traditional communities conserve and revive their community culture. The working group travelled to meet and talk to senior leaders of several Sea Gypsies villages in the search for all types of art and culture, and explain to them the need to conserve those fine cultural heritages.
Culture is what people in a community share. The Moken, for example, the society sees them as the disadvantaged, outdated, and uneducated, which are all outsiders' culture. It is an outsider's perspective towards them. On the contrary, from the root of the culture's point of view, they have indigenous knowledge, their community is harmonious, and they are sharing. We consequently use their culture as the basis and make them stronger.
It was one of the most significant days of the Morglin community of Ban Tung Wa. All community members, young and old, printed their hands on the earthen wall, symbolizing their close cooperation and unity. What they had long waited for was finally completed. Numerous friends from various different countries were on hand to congratulate them on the inauguration of the Sea Gypsies Cultural Centre of Ban Tung Wa. They can now take pride in their existence as the Morglin, in contrast with the recent past, when they had to hide the facts about their own roots, from the prevailing belief that they were nobody in the society. Today, they rise up bravely, proud in their heritage as the Morglins. Although the cultural centre was not so big, it overwhelmed their tiny hearts.
Without this cultural centre, the life of the Morglins would have changed. I'm afraid that my own culture and dialect will be lost because of the next generations. With this cultural centre, at least they are to realise that they are Morglin. They still have Kabang boat that used to be their habitation.
The Urak Lawai of Lanta were now ready. The boat they built together 2 days ago was set to carry all sufferings and ill fortunes out to the open sea. Prosperity and happiness now returned to the community, and members were encouraged to carry on with their lives. Next year, they would return to float the boat again. This would remain a tradition far into the future, as long as they remain firm in their roots and are proud of their values.